The magic of a word, Dada, which has brought journalists to the gates of a world unforeseen, is of no importance to us. To put out a manifesto, you must want ABC to fulminate against 1, 2, 3, to fly into a rage and sharpen your wings to conquer and disseminate little ABCs and big ABCs, to sign, shout, swear, to organize prose into a form of absolute and irrefutable evidence, to prove your non plus ultra and maintain that novelty resembles life, just as the latest appearance of some whore proves the essence of God. His existence was previously proved by the accordion, the landscape, the wheedling word. To impose your ABC is a natural thing, hence deplorable. Everybody does it in the form of crystal bluff, Madonna, monetary system, pharmaceutical product, or a bare leg advertising the ardent, sterile spring. The love of novelty is the cross of sympathy, demonstrates a naive je m'en foutisme. It is a transitory positive sign without a cause, but this need itself is obsolete. In documenting art on the basis of the supreme simplicity, novelty, we are human and true for the sake of amusement, impulsive, vibrant to crucify boredom. At the crossroads of the lights, alert, attentively awaiting the years in the forest. I write a manifesto and I want nothing, yet one say certain things, and in principle I am against manifestos, as I am also against principles, half pints to measure the moral value of every phrase too convenient. Approximation was invented by the Impressionists. I write this manifesto to show that people can perform contrary actions together while taking one fresh gulp of air. I am against action, for continuous contradiction, for affirmation too. I am neither for nor against, and I do not explain because I hate common sense. Dada means nothing. If you find it futile and don't want to waste your time on a word that means nothing. The first thought that comes to these people is bacteriological in character, to find its etymological, or at least its historical or psychological origin. We see by the papers that the tale of a holy cow, Dada. The cube and the mother in a certain district of Italy are called Dada, a hobby horse, a nurse both in Russian and Romanian, Dada. Some learned journalists regard it as an art for babies, other holy Jesus calling the little children of our day, as a relapse into a dry and noisy and monotonous primitivism. Sensibility is not constructed on the basis of a word. All constructions converge on perfection, which is boring. The stagnant idea of a gilded swamp, a relative human product. A work of art should not be beauty in itself, for beauty is dead. It should be neither gay nor sad, neither light nor dark, to rejoice or torture the individual by serving him the cakes of sacred orioles or the sweets of a vaulted race through the atmospheres. A work of art is never beautiful by decree, objectively and for all. Hence, criticism is useless. It exists only subjectively, for each man separately, without the slightest character of universality. Does anyone think he has found a psychic base common to all mankind? The attempt of Jesus and the Bible covers with their broad, benevolent wings, shit, animals, days. How can one expect to put order into the chaos that constitutes that infinite and shapeless variation, man? The principle, love thy neighbor, is a hypocrisy. Know thyself is utopian but more acceptable, for it embraces wickedness, no pity. After the carnage, we still retain the hope of a purified mankind. I speak only of myself, since I do not wish to convince. I have no right to drag others into my river. I oblige no one to follow me, and everybody practices his art in his own way. If he knows the joy that rises like arrows to the astral layers, or that other joy that goes down into the minds of corpse flowers and fertile spasms. Stalactites, seek them everywhere, in managers magnified by pain, eyes white as the hairs of the angels. And so Dada was born of a need for independence, of a distrust toward unity. Those who are with us preserve their freedom. We recognize no theory. We have enough cubist and futurist academies, laboratories of formal ideas. Is the aim of art to make money and cajole the nice bourgeois? Rhymes ring with the assonance of the currencies, and the inflection slips along the line of the belly in profile. All groups of artists have arrived at this trust company, utter riding their steeds on various comets, while the door remains open to the possibility of wallowing in cushions and good things to eat. Cubism was born out of the simple way of looking at an object. Cézanne painted a cup 20 centimeters below his eyes. The cubists look at it from above. Others complicate appearance by making a perpendicular section and arranging it conscientiously on the side. I do not forget the creative artists and the profound laws of matter which they established once and for all. The futurist sees the same cup in movement, a succession of objects one beside the others, and maliciously adds a few force lines. This does not prevent the canvas from being a good or bad painting suitable for the investment of intellectual capital. The new painter creates a world, the elements of which are also its implements. A sober, definite work without argument. The new artist protests he no longer paints symbolic and illusionist reproduction, but creates directly in stone, wood, iron, tin, boulders. Locomotive organisms capable of being turned in all directions by the limpid wind of momentary sensation. All pictorial or plastic work is useless. Let it then be a monstrosity that frightens servile minds, and not sweetening to decorate the refectories of animals in human costume, illustrating the sad fable of mankind. Philosophy is the question. From which side shall we look at life, God, the idea, or other phenomena? Everything one looks at is false. I do not consider the relative result more important than the choice between cake and cherries after dinner. The system of quickly looking at the other side of a thing in order to impose your opinion indirectly is called dialectics. In other words, haggling over the spirit of fried potatoes while dancing method around it. If I cry out, ideal, 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 knowledge, 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 boom, 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 I have given a pretty faithful version of progress, law, morality, and all other fine qualities that various highly intelligent men have discussed in so many books, only to conclude that, after all, everyone dances to his own personal boom boom, and that the writer is entitled to his boom boom, the satisfaction of pathological curiosity, a private bell for inexplicable needs, a bath, pecuniary difficulties, a stomach with repercussions in tile, the authority of the mystic wand formulated as the bouquet of a phantom orchestra made up of silent fiddle bows, greased with filters made of chicken manure. With the blue eyeglasses of an angel, they have excavated the inner life for a dime's worth of unanimous gratitude. If all of them are right, and if all pills are pink pills, let us try for once not to be right. Some people think they can explain rationally by thought what they think, but that is extremely relative. Psychoanalysis is a dangerous disease. It puts to sleep the anti-objective impulses of man and systematizes the bourgeoisie. There is no ultimate truth. The dialectic is an amusing mechanism which guides us in a banal kind of way to the opinions we had in the first place. Does anyone think that by a minute refinement of logic, he had demonstrated the truth and established the correctness of these opinions? Logic imprisoned by the senses is an organic disease. To this element, philosophers always like to add the power of observation. But actually, this magnificent quality of the mind is the proof of its impotence. We observe, we regard from one or more points of view, we choose them among the millions that exist. Experience is also a product of chance and individual faculties. Science disgusts me as soon as it becomes a speculative system, loses its character of utility that is so useless but is at least individual. I detest greasy objectivity and harmony, the science that finds everything in order. Carry on, my children, humanity. Science says we are the servants of nature. Everything is in order. Make love and bash your brains in. Carry on, my children, humanity, kind bourgeois, and journalist virgins. I am against systems. The most acceptable system is on principle to have none. To complete oneself, to perfect oneself in one's own littleness, to fill the vessel with one's individuality, to have the courage to fight for and against thought, the mystery of bread, the sudden burst of an infernal propeller into economic lilies, active simplicity, inability to distinguish between degrees of clarity, to lick the penumbra, and float in the big mouth filled with honey and excrement. Measured by the scale of eternity, all activity is vain, if we allow thought to engage in an adventure, the result of which would be infinitely grotesque and add significantly to our knowledge of human impotence. But supposing life to be a poor farce, without aim or initial parturition, and because we think it our duty to extricate ourselves as fresh and clean as washed chrysanthemums, We have proclaimed as the sole basis for agreement, art. It is not as important as we, mercenaries of the spirit, have been proclaiming for centuries. Art afflicts no one, and those who manage to take an interest in it will harvest caresses and a fine opportunity to populate the country with their conversation. Art is a private affair. The artist produces it for himself. An intelligible work is the product of a journalist, and because at this moment it strikes my fancy to combine this monstrosity with oil paints, a paper tube simulating the metal that is automatically pressed and poured hatred, cowardice, villainy. The artist, the poet, rejoice at the venom of the masses condensed into a section chief of this industry. He is happy to be insulted. It is a proof of his immutability. When a writer or artist is praised by the newspapers, it is a proof of the intelligibility of his work. Wretched lining of a coat for public use, tatters covering brutality, piss contributing to the warmth of an animal brooding vile instincts, flabby, insipid flesh reproducing with the help of typographical microbes. We have thrown out the crybaby in us. Any infiltration of this kind is candied diarrhea. To encourage this act is to digest it. What we need is works that are strong, straight, precise, and forever beyond understanding. Logic is a complication. Logic is always wrong. It draws the threads of notions, words in their formal exterior toward illusory ends and centers. Its chains kill. It is an enormous centipede stifling independence. Married to logic, art would live in incest, swallowing, engulfing its own tail, still part of its own body, fornicating within itself, and passion would become a nightmare tarred with Protestantism, a monument, a heap of ponderous gray entrails. But the suppleness, enthusiasm, even the joy of injustice, this little truth which we practice innocently and which makes it beautiful, we are subtle, and our fingers are malleable and slippery as the branches of that sinuous, almost liquid plant. It defines our soul, say the cynics. That too is a point of view, but all flowers are not sacred, fortunately, and the divine thing in us is to call to anti-human action. I am speaking of a paper flower for the buttonholes of the gentlemen who frequent the ball of masked life, the kitchen of grace. White cousins, lithe or fat. They traffic with whatever we have selected. The contradiction and unity of poles in a single toss can be the truth. If one absolutely insists on uttering this platitude, the appendix of a libidinous, malodorous morality. Morality creates atrophy like every plague produced by intelligence. The control of morality and logic has inflicted us with impassivity in the presence of policemen who are the cause of slavery, putrid rats infecting the bowels of the bourgeoisie, which have infected the only luminous, clean corridors of glass that remained open to artists. Let each man proclaim, there is a great negative work of destruction to be accomplished. We must sweep and clean, affirm the cleanliness of the individual after the state of madness, aggressive, complete madness of a world abandoned to the hands of bandits who rend one another and destroy the centuries. Without aim or design, without organization, indomitable madness, decomposition, those who are strong in words or force will survive, for they are quick in defense. The agility of limbs and sentiments flames on their faceted flanks. Morality has determined charity and pity, two balls of fat that have grown like elephants, like planets, and are called good. There's nothing good about them. Goodness is lucid, clear, and decided, pitiless toward compromise and politics. Morality is an injection of chocolate into the veins of all men. This task is not ordered by a supernatural force, but by the trust of idea brokers and grasping academicians. Sentimentality, at the sight of a group of men quarreling and bored, they invented the calendar and the medicament wisdom. With a sticking of labels, the battle of the philosophers was set off, mercantilism, scales, meticulous and petty measures, and for the second time it was understood that pity is a sentiment like diarrhea in relation to the disgust that destroys health. A foul attempt by carrion corpses to compromise the sun. I proclaim the opposition of all cosmic faculties to this gonorrhea of a putrid sun issued from the factories of philosophical thought. I proclaim bitter struggle with all the weapons of Dadaist disgust. Every product of disgust capable of becoming a negation of the family is Dada, a protest with the fists of its whole being engaged in destructive action. Dada, knowledge of all the means rejected up until now by the shame-faced sex of comfortable compromise and good manners. Dada, the complete abolition of logic, which is the dance of those impotent to create. Dada, of every social hierarchy and equation set up for the sake of values by our valets. Dada, every object, all objects, sentiments, obscurities, apparitions, and the precise clash of parallel lines are weapons for the fight. Dada, abolition of memory. Dada, abolition of archaeology. Dada, abolition of prophets. Dada, abolition of the future. Dada, absolute and unquestionable faith in every god that is the immediate product of spontaneity. Dada, elegant and unprejudiced leap from a harmony to the other sphere. Trajectory of a word tossed like a screeching phonograph record, to respect all individuals in their folly of the moment, whether it be serious, fearful, timid, ardent, vigorous, determined, enthusiastic, to divest one's church of every useless, cumbersome accessory, to spit out disagreeable or amorous ideas like a luminous waterfall, or coddle them, with the extreme satisfaction that it doesn't matter in the least, with the same intensity in the thicket of Kor's soul, pure, of insects for blood well-born, and gilded with bodies of archangels. Freedom, dada, 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 a roaring of tense colors, an interlacing of opposites and of all contradictions, grotesques, inconsistencies. Life.